Greetings, everyone. It is a little bit warmer morning here in Southeast Georgia. Definitely feel the humidity compared to the last few days. I guess that hurricane, tropical storm system, coming by, brought in all that nice cool weather. It's starting to warm back up, but we'll see how it goes over the next little bit. Sorry I didn't get anything out yesterday. The audio was messed up. And then the afternoon, I just really was not in the mood because of what happened at that Catholic school yesterday. And it absolutely tore at my heartstrings. And I was just angry and sad, and I just thought about those kids, about those fellow parents, and the pain. And I mean, we're losing lives, losing young lives to preventable problems because fucking politicians are too beholden to the gun lobby, to NRA, to cult. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It just destroyed me personally. I mean, quick thing, in my opinion, we should nationalize all gun manufacturing here in America. There should not be a private gun industry whatsoever, especially for semi-automatic rifles that can easily be converted to fully automatic rifles. There's no reason for a person to own an entire arsenal. There needs to be better flags on systems that can prevent people from obtaining a weapon. And some of these systems already exist and are just not implemented because the law enforcement officers on the ground and the judges and the clerks who are part of the judicial system in these municipalities that have these flagging systems just don't even know it exists. And it could have prevented a lot of things, a lot of incidents, the ones that don't hit national news. And it's just upsetting. It's just upsetting. I don't need an AR-15. I don't. No one needs an AR-15. Like, unless you are a part of the military and that is a issued weapon from the government because you are a service member for the government, no one should ever have to touch an AR-15. No one should ever have to touch an American replica of an AK-47 or any of this. No one really needs a pistol, honestly. It's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So let's get into the news. Let's see what GPP is talking about. Oh, what the heck is happening?
For a candlelight prayer vigil, Erica Jones witnessed first responders making their way to the scene.
And so to sit in a coffee shop this morning and watching squad cars fly by and businesses lock their doors, it's not a way to live. This is not how we should live.
Authorities say the 23-year-old shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was identified as a former student of the school. Jeez. The Immigration Detention Center in the Florida Everglades, dubbed Alligator Alcatraz, is expected to be empty within days. NPR's Greg Allen reports the state is fighting a lawsuit ordering it to shut down.
In a response to a request from clergy who wanted to serve as chaplains at the Immigration Detention Center, the director of Florida's Department of Emergency Management, Kevin Guthrie, sent an email stating, "We are probably going to be down to 0 individuals within a few days." Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says federal immigration officials are sending fewer people to the facility.
Now, obviously, there's litigation that's been going on that DHS is a party to, and so that may be an influence about where they're sending people.
The state is appealing a court ruling ordering it to shut down the facility within 60 days. Greg Allen, NPR News, Miami.
The microchip designer NVIDIA says its sales soared in the July quarter. NPR's John Rowich reports the results come despite uncertainty around China as a market for the company.
NVIDIA is the world's leader in chips for developing artificial intelligence, and demand for its graphics processing units has turned it into the world's most valuable public company. Its quarterly sales just hit $46.7 billion, an increase of 56% from the same period last year. Sales in the data center segment of the market, which is NVIDIA's biggest, grew at the same rate. The company's shares dipped in aftermarket trading, though, because the results were slightly lower than expected. Still, the strong growth underscores red-hot demand for its chips as AI companies.
Oh my God. It just kind of proves that, like, the top stocks, or the most expensive stocks, are just completely speculative markets. Because this is not the first time that NVIDIA has had, like, enormous profits and a growth in sales, and stocks still dip because the growth was not as gigantic and cancerous as they thought it was going to be. It's so silly.
For seniors, but only for younger adults and children who have at least one underlying health condition. Last week, K-pop Demon Hunters became the third soundtrack in history.
I don't care about K-pop Demon Hunters. No, the thing that I just talked over in just the very end of it was the CDC and FDA, I think it's the FDA specifically, released new guidelines on the COVID vaccine. Basically limiting it from its on-label of, routine COVID prevention for anyone older than 6 months, which is what it was deemed safe for, and has an ungodly amount of data to back that up. Like, I mean, the COVID vaccines were some of the most studied vaccines to ever be implemented in, like, the last 20 years. And that's just because of how much effort was put into it. And it can't compete with something like the polio vaccine because the polio vaccine has existed since, like, the 50s. So, or 40s, 50s, I forget when it was rolled out. But it's being changed from anyone greater than 6 months for routine preventative care to only people who have a medical condition that can be complicated by COVID, or I think greater than 65 years old. So, people on Social Security, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? Because people who were younger than 65 years got really sick from COVID and died from COVID. And I think even more importantly is that the amount of people who got sick from COVID and had to go out of work after the pandemic, that's a huge strain on people's lives. They have to figure out if they're going to be able to afford rent that month because they had to call out of work. They're what is this person doing? Sorry. They have to figure out, well, what if my kid gets sick and then they have to go out of daycare? God dang, it's because the person in front of me is going super slow. What if, they get sick and then I have to call out of work again, and then, maybe, I can't take my kid to daycare, I can't have my kid in school. What if they get other people sick who can't get the vaccine? Like, it's all this stuff, right? That has a huge impact on people's lives. And if you care about it from the money perspective, it has a huge impact on the economy. People having to call out sick because of a preventable disease is a huge deal when you look at the big numbers of, the productivity of society. So it's just absolutely dumb. It's ridiculous. And it should just be treated like a flu shot. I mean, that's really what it should be. It should be treated as a flu shot. You get it annually or biannually, whatever is determined appropriate by the research, not by the biases of a fucking anti-vax piece of shit head of the HSS. So.
Windows of Annunciation Catholic Church, where children and adults gathered for Mass early Wednesday to celebrate the first week of school.
An 8-year-old child and a 10-year-old child were killed in the pews of that church. 14 more children were wounded, along with 3 adults. By nightfall, hundreds of people came together to mourn at vigils across the city. In a nearby school gym. In a city park. The shooter has been identified as a 23-year-old former student. Authorities say they shot themselves behind the church.
The witnesses to yesterday's violence were young, like the victims. Here's 10-year-old Weston Halsey speaking to a local television station, KR11.
I just ran onto the pew, and then I covered my head. My friend Victor, saved me, though, because he laid on top of me, but he got hit.
His friend Victor, he says, was shot in the back, but he says he's okay.
For the latest on what we know about this killing spree, we turn to reporter Matt Sepik of Minnesota Public Radio, who was at the scene throughout the day. Good morning, Matt.
Hi, Layla.
Matt, what else do we know about the significance of this place and about the people who were killed and wounded?
The church and school are an institution in South Minneapolis. Annunciation celebrated its 100th anniversary a few years ago. The victims spanned generations. In addition to the children who were hurt and killed, 3 parishioners in their 80s were also wounded. Police Chief Brian O'Hara says the prognosis for the wounded is good.
All of the remaining victims are expected to survive. There is a range of injuries, however.
It's still very terrifying for them. Were you able to talk with any witnesses to this attack?
Pat Scallon is an alum of Annunciation School. He's still a parishioner there and lives down the block in the house where he grew up. Scallon said he thought at first that the gunshots were a roofing crew with pneumatic nail guns, but he realized quickly that it was rifle fire. Scallon says he ran to the scene just as several injured children were coming out of the church. He stayed with them until the first of many ambulances arrived. Scallon says he helped a boy who suffered a wound to his arm and a girl with a neck wound.
She was conscious, her eyes were good, and she was just a brave little. And then there was another boy who got grazed in the arm, I think. Another brave kid. They're all around 4th grade.
So authorities have identified the suspect. What do they know about the person they say carried out this attack?
The shooter was named as Robin Westman. Westman was armed with a rifle, pistol, and shotgun and died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the rear of the church. O'Hara said the shooter purchased all of the weapons legally and recently. Westman left behind a video that was scheduled to post to YouTube at the time of the shooting. O'Hara said it appeared to show Westman at the scene and included some disturbing writings. The chief says the FBI worked with YouTube to have the video taken down.
And how are leaders consoling their community in this moment?
As we heard, there were vigils Wednesday night. Another is set for this evening. At a news conference Wednesday, Archbishop Bernard Hebder read a message from Pope Leo. The pontiff said he was, quote, profoundly saddened to learn of the loss of life and injuries in the shooting, and he sends his heartfelt condolences to everyone affected.
That's Matt Sepik of Minnesota Public Radio. Thank you for your reporting, Matt.
You're welcome.
At Annunciation Catholic School, some of the preschoolers have class in the basement of the church next door, where they huddled when gunfire rang out yesterday during the Mass upstairs. One of them was 4-year-old Ayla Turner. Her father, Brooks Turner, was driving to work when his mom called with news of the shooting.
I immediately hung up with my mom, called Annunciation, and I was like, hi, so, I just heard from my mom that there was a shooting happening. And when they said yes, I felt like I was going to throw up. But they were very quick to, assure me that the preschool students were okay and that I could come to the school and pick her up. I had to park 3 blocks away. I basically just started running to the school, and I'm not an athletic person. It was like I just wanted to get there as fast as I could. Ayla, jumped onto me when I later, my mom was asking her, how did you find Daddy? And she was like, I saw his black hair. And then I ran and I jumped. And that's basically what happened. And that was a huge relief. And, I feel really lucky because obviously many others weren't. How Ayla recounts it was that there were people banging as if they were trying to break down the ceiling to get inside. She said that she hid in the play kitchen that's in their room. She told me that she laid flat on her belly and that she was scared, so she covered her eyes. And
Christ.
at some point, a police officer picked her up and was carrying her, and she said that she saw broken glass. She did say at one point to me after we got home, like, I don't ever want to go back to that school again. It's too loud. It's just too loud.
Blame her.
We were also sitting at home, and, we usually, especially right now when the weather is beautiful, keep our doors open and our windows open, and she really wanted to have everything shut. She also asked to look at pictures of her school. So she clearly understands something traumatic happened, but then also she was goofing around and climbing on me and tickling me and jumping, like being her normal self. So it is that sort of like going back and forth. It was only her third day of school. But I mean, it breaks my heart. Well, in so many different ways.
Brooks Turner sharing his family's experience of yesterday's shooting in Minneapolis.
This is absolutely fucking heart-wrenching. This is ridiculous. What the fuck? This keeps happening. This has been happening since before I was alive. This is insane. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's so ridiculous that this happens. That people, they get radicalized in these ways that turn them into vicious killers, and that they're enabled by the system and by the country we live in. They're enabled by what feels like unlimited access to tools of war, of murder, and of endless violence. I feel like I could probably go to an academy today and buy hundreds of rounds of ammunition. And what, I flash a driver's license if I'm lucky, just to prove that I'm able to buy ammo in the first place, that I'm just old enough to buy ammo. I mean, I hunt. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I own firearms. I go hunt. I have a compound bow too that I tried out earlier this spring for the first time. Didn't get anything, but it was archery season for turkey here in Georgia, and I wanted to go out and try. But I have a firearm. I have a couple firearms, and I've bought ammo over the internet for a 22 Magnum rifle because it was allowed for small game, right? And it has a further distance than your normal 22. But I could just I was able to buy hundreds of rounds over the internet, and they just dropped it off at my front door. No signature, no, showing ID, no authorized pickup, none of that. They just dropped it off at my door. I can go to Academy today and just buy a weapon. No problem. It could be an AR-15. It could be a pistol, a semi-automatic pistol that I can then buy high-capacity magazines on the internet for, and then at a different website buy 100 rounds of 9mm ammo or something like that. And 100 rounds can do a lot of damage. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I feel like there is no real control over these weapons of murder, these tools of murder, right? Look, it's just ridiculous. I don't need the weapons that I have. I don't need them. I just like them as a hobby to go hunting, right? It's nice. But I don't fucking need them. The only reason people think they need guns for self-defense is because of other people with guns. Because there are so many guns in this country. Because there is an entire industry, private industry, people who make money with the goal to make money by manufacturing tools of murder, their ammo, and then selling them. And making it as mass marketed as possible, and to make it as a part of people's identities as possible, as much as they can, so they can just harvest as much cash off of these people as possible, fully knowing that as a byproduct of this industry, violence will occur. It's not like a vice like drinking, like alcohol, right? Because yes, alcohol kills, alcohol can hurt, but the primary purpose of alcohol is to not send a piece of metal at thousands of feet per second to end a life at the other end of the bottle, right? That's what a firearm is for. That's why they were initially invented. That's why they were revolutionized and built upon and advanced so much over the last 500 years or so, since the first basically fireworks shooters and propellant cannons and stuff existed. It's just so absolutely frustrating. Call your fucking state rep. Call your federal reps. Tell them we need actual fucking legislation. If you have the cash, donate to those families in Minnesota. They need it more than ever because some of them have lost fucking everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's fucking unacceptable. We need gun control yesterday. And what I'm afraid of is that nothing's gonna fucking happen and another group of children are gonna be murdered tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And the people who own fucking Colt are gonna keep making money. Nationalized gun companies fucking forbid the manufacture of semi-automatic weapons, whether if it's a fucking pistol or a rifle or a shotgun or any of those things. Fucking ban it for civilian sale, and it is only to be purchased by the Department of Defense. No fucking cop needs that shit either. They can have a fucking pistol. That's it. Fuck. I'm emotional and I'm angry. I think that is the reasonable feeling to have right now, to be unreasonably angry. I hope y'all have a better day. My heart goes out to those kids and those families and the entire community for those that have lost.